Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret was 68 years old. She had worked for 37 years as a school librarian. She had saved carefully, not lavishly, but carefully, the way people of her generation were taught to save. She had enough. Not luxury, but enough. Enough to live with dignity, to visit her grandchildren, to never have to worry about the electric bill. Then one afternoon, her phone rang. It was someone she trusted deeply, someone she loved, and that person needed money urgently. And Margaret, because she was kind, because she was generous, because that is simply who she was, said yes. She said yes again 6 months later, and again the following spring. By the time Margaret was 72, she had given away nearly $60,000. She had taken a part-time job at a grocery store at 72, just to cover her own medications. Friends, I tell you this story not to frighten you. I tell you this story because it is true. And because it happens quietly, slowly, to good people, generous people, spiritual people, every single day in this country. Today I want to talk to you about something the Buddha addressed directly, more than 2,500 years ago. He understood that in the second half of life, the way you protect your resources is inseparable from the way you protect your peace. And peace, genuine, unshakable peace, is the whole point, isn't it? The Buddha never said to close your heart. He said to open your eyes. So today, with great love and great clarity, I want to share with you, in old age, never lend money to these 4 people. Before we meet these 4 people, I want to give you the spiritual ground on which this teaching stands. In the Sigalovada Sutta, sometimes called the layperson's code of discipline, the Buddha spoke directly to a young man named Sigala. He gave him very practical guidance on how to recognize false friends, true friends, and how to protect the well-being he had built. This is important. The Buddha did not only teach monks in forest monasteries. He sat with ordinary people, merchants, farmers, grandparents, and he said, "This is how you live wisely in the world." He described 4 types of people who appear to be friends but drain your merit, your energy, and your resources. He called them friends in name only, and he described with great precision exactly how they behave. He also taught a principle called Kalyanamitta, the idea of the spiritual friend. A true friend lifts you up. A true friend supports your growth. A true friend would never ask you to sacrifice your well-being for their temporary comfort. And then there is the teaching of dana, generosity. Dana is one of the most beautiful virtues in Buddhist practice. But the Buddha was always careful to distinguish between dana given freely with wisdom and giving that arises from fear, guilt, or manipulation. One uplifts both giver and receiver. The other slowly empties you and enables the other person to remain stuck. Here is a truth that may surprise you. In the second half of your life, your money is not just money. It represents your decades of labor. It represents your security, your health, your freedom. To give it away carelessly, out of guilt, out of old loyalty, out of fear of disapproval, is not generosity. It is a form of self-abandonment. And the Buddha never taught self-abandonment. He taught the middle path, balance, wisdom, compassion that includes yourself. So, let us meet these 4 people. The first person is perhaps the most painful to talk about because the love is completely real. I want you to imagine a man named Robert. Robert is 70 years old. He has a son, 43 years of age, named David. David is a good man at heart, but David has struggled his whole adult life to find his footing. He's had 3 businesses that didn't work out, 2 marriages that ended, a lawsuit, a move, an investment that failed. and every time David called, Robert answered. Over the course of 10 years, Robert had quietly, almost invisibly, transferred $80,000 to his son. Each time there was a reason, each time there was a plan. Each time David said, Dad, I promise this is the last time. Once I get through this, I'll pay you back everything. David never paid anything back. And Robert, who should have been enjoying his retirement, traveling with his wife, sleeping without worry, Robert lay awake at night, counting what he had left. Now, is Robert a bad father? Absolutely not. Robert loves his son with his whole heart. That love is real and it is beautiful. But here is what the Dharma teaches us. Enabling is not love. It is fear wearing the mask of kindness. In Buddhist teaching, we speak of idappaccayata, the principle of conditionality. Every action arises from conditions and creates new conditions. When we consistently remove the natural consequences of someone's choices, we are not helping them grow. We are keeping them exactly where they are. We are, with all our love, preventing their liberation. The adult child who never grew up has learned, perhaps unconsciously, that crisis brings rescue, that struggle brings money, and so the cycle continues, because we fund it. How do you recognize this pattern? There is always a new emergency. The problems never resolve, they only shift. When you hesitate, even for a moment, they make you feel guilty. I thought you loved me, or after everything I've been through, or you don't understand what it's like. And perhaps the most telling sign of all, there is never a plan. There is always urgency, but never a real path forward. So how do you respond? With love? You say, I love you, I believe in you, and I will not give you money because money has not helped you. And I will not continue doing something that does not help you. But I am here. I will sit with you. I will talk with you. I will support your growth in every way I am able. This is not abandonment, friends. This is the deepest form of love. It says, I believe you are capable. It says, I will not treat you like a child who cannot stand on their own feet. That is a gift far more precious than any dollar amount. The second person brings a different kind of pain, the pain of nostalgia. A woman I'll call Patricia had a childhood best friend named Linda. They had grown up together, shared everything as girls, been in each other's weddings. Then life happened. Careers, families, distance. They hadn't spoken, truly spoken, in nearly 20 years. Then one day, Patricia's phone rang. It was Linda. They talked for an hour. Patricia was so happy. She cried a little. It was like coming home. At the end of the call, Linda said, I hate to even bring this up, but I'm in a really difficult spot right now. Would you be able to lend me just a little? Patricia said yes. Of course she said yes. The warmth of that conversation was still glowing in her chest. She never heard from Linda again. Friends, the Buddha spoke of something called upadana, clinging. We cling to people, to memories, to the idea of who someone was. When an old friend reappears, we don't lend money to the person standing in front of us. We lend money to the memory of who they were at 20 years old. And that memory, however beautiful, is not the same as trust. Trust is built through time, consistency, and presence. You cannot earn trust in a 1-hour phone call after 20 years of silence. How do you recognize this pattern? There has been a long silence, years, sometimes decades. Then suddenly, warmth, shared memories. Do you remember when we... Then, almost as an afterthought, a request. And after the money is given, silence again. The warmth was real, but it was also, whether consciously or not, a tool. How do you respond? With love and wisdom? You say, "It is so good to hear your voice. I've missed you. I'm not in a position to lend money right now, but I would love to stay in touch. Let's keep talking." And you mean it. Because here is the truth. If this person is truly your friend, a real Kalyana Mitta, they will understand. They will respect your boundary, and the friendship will continue and deepen. If the silence returns the moment you say no, then you have your answer, and you have protected both your savings and your heart. The third person is perhaps the most manipulative, and they often don't even realize they're doing it. Let's call him Uncle Victor. Victor is 65 himself, the family patriarch in his own mind. When he calls, he doesn't simply ask, he invokes. He says things like, "Your grandmother always said this family takes care of its own." Or, "Your brother helped me without question. I would have thought you." Or, the most powerful of all, "After everything this family did for you, after everything your mother sacrificed." These words land like stones. They activate something deep, the desire to be a good son, a good daughter, a good member of the clan. The fear of being seen as selfish, as cold, as ungrateful. This is not love. This is obligation planted in guilt. And there is a profound difference. In Buddhist teaching, we recognize what are called the 5 hindrances, mental states that cloud our wisdom and distort our perception. One of them is vyapada, which we often translate as ill will or aversion, but which can also manifest as resentment, bitterness, and emotional manipulation. What Uncle Victor is doing, and what many relatives do, is using the language of love to activate your resentment of being seen as unloving. It is a trap, and it works for as long as you cannot see it clearly. How do you recognize this pattern? Appeals to deceased relatives. Your mother would have. Comparisons to more compliant siblings or cousins. Public pressure. Asking at family gatherings in front of others. Dramatic language about suffering and sacrifice. And a very telling sign, the request is never modest. These requests tend to be large, urgent, and somehow tied to your character if you refuse. How do you respond? With love and without guilt. You say, calmly, warmly, without apology, "I honor our family by being honest with you today. I'm not able to lend money. That is my final answer, and I say it with love." And then, this is important, you do not explain further. Explanation is an invitation to negotiation. You have spoken clearly. You have spoken with love. That is enough. You do not owe anyone a lengthy justification for protecting your financial security, not even family. Not even family. The fourth person is the most spiritually dangerous, and I say this as a monk who has devoted his life to the Dharma. I have seen it. I have seen good, sincere, devoted people. People who meditate, who chant, who come to every teaching. Give away money they could not afford to spiritual figures who promised them divine rewards. I knew a couple, let us call them James and Helen, who were both in their late 60s, both deeply spiritual. They encountered a man who presented himself as a realized teacher. He spoke beautifully. He had an impressive lineage. He made them feel seen, chosen, special. And then he said, "There is a sacred window of opportunity. It only comes once in a lifetime. If you make an offering at this specific amount, at this specific time, the merit accumulated will protect your family for 7 generations." James and Helen gave $15,000. They heard nothing more from this teacher. The organization dissolved. The website disappeared. $15,000 gone. Friends, I must say this plainly. True dharma never asks you to purchase merit. Merit is not for sale. Blessings cannot be bought. These are not Buddhist teachings. These are not any genuine spiritual teachings. These are manipulations dressed in the language of the sacred. The Buddha warned explicitly about miccaditthi, wrong view. And one of the deepest forms of wrong view is exploiting the sincere faith of practitioners for personal financial gain. This is not a minor misuse. In Buddhist understanding, it is among the gravest of harms. How do you recognize this pattern? Urgency. This window is closing. You must decide now. Promises of specific, measurable spiritual return. 7 generations of protection, immediate healing, guarantee of a fortunate rebirth. Shame if you question. Your doubt is blocking your blessings. A specific dollar amount that feels designed to test your faith. And isolation. The sense that this special opportunity is only available to you, only through this teacher, only at this moment. How do you respond? With love for yourself and your practice. You say, real blessings arise from within. My practice is my protection. I am not called to prove my faith with money. And if someone tells you that your hesitation means you lack faith, I want you to hear me. Doubt in the face of pressure is not a lack of faith. It is wisdom. The Buddha called it vimamsa, investigation, discernment. He placed it among the paths to awakening. You are allowed to investigate. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away. We have met the 4 people, but I want to offer you something deeper. Why is old age, this particular season of life, the most important time to understand these teachings? There is a beautiful line from the Dhammapada. Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. In the second half of life, you are not accumulating anymore. You are distilling. You are discovering what is essential, what is truly yours, what cannot be taken from you. Your money at this stage is not an abstraction. It is your healthcare. It is your independence. It is the difference between having choices and having none. Losing it to manipulation or misplaced guilt does not just affect your finances, it affects your dignity. And here is the teaching on dana that I want to leave with you. True generosity uplifts both the giver and the receiver. When you give freely, joyfully, without coercion, that is dana. That is beautiful. That accumulates merit in the truest sense. But when you give because you are afraid of conflict, because you feel guilty, because you are exhausted from the pressure, that is not dana. That is surrender, and it helps no one. The practice of upekkha, equanimity, teaches us to love everyone without being controlled by everyone. To hold all beings in warmth and goodwill while remaining steady at the center. Like a great tree in a windstorm, the branches move, the leaves flutter, but the roots hold. That is who you are, friends. You are the roots. Saying no to these 4 people is saying yes to your peace, to your health, to the years you still have, years that belong to you, years that can be spent in practice, in joy, in genuine service, in the company of those who truly love you. You have earned this season. Do not let anyone take it from you, not even with love in their voice. Let us sit together for a moment. If you are comfortable, allow your eyes to gently close. Feel the weight of your body resting wherever you are right now. Feel the breath moving in and moving out. Gently bring to mind someone in your life, perhaps someone we talked about today, someone whose requests have left you feeling drained, guilty, or confused. You don't need to solve anything right now. You don't need to make a decision. Just breathe and let this truth settle quietly into your heart. I have worked hard. I have loved deeply. I have given much, and I am worthy of protection. May I be wise. May I be free. May I protect what the Dharma has given me. Take a gentle breath in and breathe out slowly. When you are ready, let your eyes open. Friends, let me bring this teaching home. Today we spoke of 4 people. The adult child who never grew up, whom you love but who needs consequences more than cash. The old friend who only calls in need, whose nostalgia is real but whose trust has not been earned. The relative who uses guilt as currency, who invokes family and the dead but whose pressure is not love. And the spiritual figure who sells blessings, who exploits your faith, the most sacred part of you. None of these people are necessarily evil. Most of them are simply struggling, and they have learned, consciously or not, that pressure on you yields results. Your clarity breaks that pattern, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with the steady, quiet wisdom of someone who has lived long enough to know the difference between love and manipulation. The Buddha said, and I return to this often, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. At this stage of your life, your money is your time is your life. Guard it the way you would guard the flame of a candle in the wind, not with fear, but with gentle, steady intention. You are not being selfish. You are not being cold. You are being a bodhisattva of your own life, someone who has chosen to walk the path of wisdom all the way to the end. If this teaching brought you clarity today, I ask only this: share it with one person you love who may need to hear it. That itself is an act of dana, of true generosity. And as always, from my heart to yours, on this lotus dharma path, sabbe satta sukhi hontu. May all beings be happy. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be free.